The entire Jeopardy studio fell silent. Not the usual hush between questions, but a dead silence that made everyone freeze in place. Alex Trebek, the unflappable host who had seen everything in 34 years, stood motionless as a visitor's words hit him like a lightning bolt. What she revealed about a single sentence he'd spoken decades earlier would stop production cold and prove that some forgotten moments carry enough power to save lives. This wasn't just a thank you visit. This was the moment Alex Trebek discovered his words had traveled through time to perform miracles he never knew were possible. It was March 15, 2018, at Sony Pictures Studios in Culver City, California. The familiar rhythm of Jeopardy taping was in full swing. The iconic blue set gleamed under the studio lights, contestants stood nervously at their podiums, and Alex moved through his routine with the practiced grace of a master craftsman. At 77 years old, Alex Trebek still commanded the stage with quiet authority, his silver hair perfectly styled, his voice carrying that distinctive blend of warmth and intelligence that had made him America's most trusted game show host. The morning had started like any other. 3 games scheduled for taping, each with contestants who had passed rigorous tests and traveled from across the country for their shot at Jeopardy glory. Alex reviewed his materials in his dressing room, a modest space decorated with family photos and thank you letters from viewers. He'd read every single one over the years, filing away the stories of people whose lives had somehow been touched by 30 minutes of daily television. But something was different today. His longtime producer, Harry Friedman, had mentioned that someone special would be visiting during the lunch break. An old friend of the show, he'd said, someone who wanted to thank Alex personally. In 30-plus years of hosting, Alex had met thousands of people, but something in Harry's tone suggested this visit would be meaningful. The first 2 tapings went smoothly. Alex delivered his trademark blend of encouragement and gentle correction, celebrating correct responses with genuine enthusiasm and softening the sting of wrong answers with his characteristic diplomacy. During the break between games, he noticed a woman in her early 50s, standing near the production area, watching him with an intensity that caught his attention. She was well-dressed but not flashy, with graying brown hair and kind eyes that held a depth of experience. She stood slightly apart from the usual crowd of network executives and production staff, her hands folded in front of her, waiting patiently. There was something familiar about her, though Alex couldn't place it. In his line of work, he'd learned to trust those subtle feelings of recognition. But what this woman was about to reveal would prove that a single forgotten sentence had been quietly reshaping lives in ways Alex could never have imagined. During the lunch break, Harry approached Alex with the visitor by his side. "Alex, I'd like you to meet Dr. Sarah Chen. She has something she'd like to share with you." The woman extended her hand with a warm but nervous smile. "Mr. Trebek, it's such an honor to meet you again, though I don't expect you to remember me." Alex shook her hand, studying her face more closely. "Again, I'm sorry, but I have to admit I don't recall where we might have met." Sarah's smile widened, and for a moment she looked much younger. "It was 25 years ago, right here in this studio. I was 16 years old, and I was part of a group from my high school's academic decathlon team. We got to watch a taping and meet some of the crew afterward." The memory began to stir, vague and distant. Alex had participated in countless promotional events and school visits over the years, always eager to encourage young people's interest in learning. "I think I remember something like that, but I'm afraid the details are fuzzy. Please remind me." Sarah took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. What she was about to say would reveal how one sentence had created a chain reaction spanning 2 decades and touching lives Alex Trebek never knew existed. "After the taping, you were talking with our group, answering questions about the show and about education. I was standing toward the back because I was painfully shy and felt out of place. I was the only Asian student in our group, and honestly, I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. My parents had immigrated from Taiwan when I was 5, and I was struggling with my identity, feeling caught between 2 cultures and not fully accepted by either." Alex listened intently, his full attention focused on Sarah's words. The studio around them seemed to fade as she continued her story. "One of my teammates asked you what advice you'd give to students who wanted to be on Jeopardy someday. You gave a wonderful answer about the importance of curiosity and lifelong learning. But then you did something that changed everything." She paused, collecting herself, and Alex found himself leaning forward, drawn into her narrative despite not remembering the specific moment she was describing. "You looked directly at me, even though I was trying to hide in the back, and you said something that I've carried with me every single day since then." The studio had grown quiet around them. Other staff members had begun to gather, sensing something important was unfolding. Harry stood nearby with his arms crossed, a knowing smile on his face, as if he'd heard this story before and understood its significance. "You said, young lady in the back with the academic decathlon jacket, you have intelligent eyes and a thoughtful presence. Don't ever let anyone convince you that your voice doesn't matter or that your perspective isn't valuable. The world needs minds like yours, and I have a feeling you're going to do something remarkable with your life." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. The words sounded like something he might have said, something that aligned with his beliefs about encouraging young people, but he had no specific memory of the moment. How many similar conversations had he had over the years? How many young people had he tried to encourage with casual words that felt routine to him? But Sarah wasn't finished. Her eyes had filled with tears, but her voice remained steady. "Mr. Trebek, at that moment in my life I was seriously considering dropping out of academic decathlon. I felt like an imposter, like I didn't deserve to be there. I was dealing with racism at school, kids making fun of my accent even though English was my strongest subject. I was planning to quit the team, quit trying to excel academically, and just blend into the background." The weight of what she was saying began to settle over Alex like a warm blanket. Around them, the crew had stopped their usual between-taping bustle and were listening intently. This wasn't just a casual fan encounter, this was something profound. "But when you said those words, when you looked at me and saw something worthwhile, it changed everything. You saw me when I felt invisible. You valued my mind when I thought it didn't matter. That night I went home and wrote your words in my journal, and I read them every day for the rest of high school." Sarah reached into her purse and pulled out a small, worn notebook. "I kept that journal all these years. Your words are right here on page 47. I've read them on every hard day since then, and there have been many." Alex Trebek felt his throat tighten with emotion. In all his years of hosting, he'd received thousands of thank you notes and fan letters, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. To learn that a casual comment, something he couldn't even remember saying, had shaped someone's entire life trajectory was overwhelming. "Tell me what happened after that," Alex said quietly. "Where did your life take you?" "I stayed on the academic decathlon team, and we won the state championship that year. I graduated as valedictorian, got a full scholarship to Stanford, though the first year nearly broke me. I was surrounded by students who seemed so much more confident, so much more prepared. I struggled with imposter syndrome, working twice as hard as everyone else just to keep up. I almost quit 3 times. Her voice grew stronger as she continued. "But every time I wanted to give up, I remembered your words. I went to medical school at Harvard, where I failed my first anatomy exam and cried for hours in a bathroom stall. My parents didn't understand why I was putting myself through such stress. They wanted me to choose something easier, safer, but I specialized in pediatric oncology because I wanted to be someone who helps kids when they're facing their biggest challenges, just like you helped me face mine." She paused, looking around the studio that had played such a pivotal role in her story. "For the past 15 years I've been working at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. I treat kids with cancer, and part of my job is helping them believe in their own strength when everything seems hopeless. I use your words, Mr. Trebek. When I meet a scared child who thinks they can't be brave, I tell them they have intelligent eyes and a thoughtful presence, and that the world needs them." The silence that followed was profound. Alex found himself speechless, a rare occurrence for someone who had made his living with words for decades. The crew members who had gathered were wiping their eyes, and Harry Friedman was nodding slowly, clearly moved by what he was hearing. But the most remarkable part of Sarah's story was yet to come, the part where Alex Trebek's words would resurface in a cancer ward, 25 years later, to save another life. "There's more," she said softly. "Last month I was treating a 12-year-old boy named Marcus who was going through his second round of chemotherapy. He was depressed and angry, refusing to do his schoolwork, convinced he was too sick and too different to succeed at anything. His teachers had given up on him." Alex listened with growing amazement as Sarah continued. "I sat with Marcus and told him about a TV host who once saw potential in a shy teenager and changed her life with a few kind words. I told him about you, Mr. Trebek, and how you taught me that our voices matter no matter what challenges we face." She smiled through her tears. "Marcus asked if he could watch Jeopardy with me during his treatment sessions. We started watching every day, and he became fascinated with the show. He began studying, doing research, learning about everything from ancient history to molecular biology. His whole attitude changed. The emotion in the studio was palpable now. Several crew members were openly crying, and Alex felt his own eyes beginning to well up. This was far more than a simple thank you visit. It was a testament to the ripple effects of kindness, the way small gestures can echo through decades and touch lives in ways we never imagine. 3 weeks ago, Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger, Marcus rang the bell at our hospital to celebrate completing his treatment successfully. He's in remission, and he's thriving academically. He told me he wants to try out for Jeopardy when he's old enough, because that show helped save my life. Alex had to sit down. The magnitude of what he was hearing, the chain reaction of hope and encouragement that had started with words he couldn't even remember speaking, was almost too much to process. One sentence, delivered casually to a shy teenager 25 years ago, had rippled forward to impact not just that teenager's life, but her patients' lives as well. "So you see, Mr. Trebek," Sarah said, placing her hand gently on his shoulder, "your words didn't just change my life. They've changed the lives of every child I've been able to help, because I had the confidence to become a doctor. They've changed Marcus's life, and probably the lives of children he'll inspire someday. Your kindness created a chain reaction that's still going strong." Alex looked up at her, this remarkable woman whose life had been altered by a moment he couldn't recall, but whose impact he was witnessing firsthand. "Dr. Chen, I wish I could remember that day more clearly, but I'm grateful that somehow I said what you needed to hear." She shook her head with a warm smile. "You don't need to remember it, Mr. Trebek. The important thing is that you meant it. You had a choice that day to either ignore a shy kid in the back of the group or to see her potential and speak it into existence. You chose kindness, and that choice has been paying forward ever since." Sarah pulled out her phone and showed Alex a photo. "This is Marcus on his last day of treatment. He's holding a sign he made himself." The photo showed a bright-eyed boy with no hair but a radiant smile, holding a handmade poster that read, "Thank you, Mr. Trebek, for teaching Dr. Chen to see me." Alex felt his breath catch. This child, this brave little fighter whom he'd never met, was thanking him for words spoken to a different child decades earlier. The connections, the ripple effects, the way kindness could echo through time, it was almost too profound to comprehend. "Marcus asked me to give you this," Sarah continued, reaching into her bag. She handed Alex a small, carefully wrapped package. Inside was a handmade thank you card decorated with crayon drawings of question marks and light bulbs. In a child's handwriting it read, "Dear Mr. Trebek, Dr. Chen says you helped her believe in herself when she was scared. Now she helps me believe in myself when I'm scared. Your words are like magic. They keep helping people even when you're not there. Thank you for making Dr. Chen brave so she could make me brave too. Love, Marcus, future Jeopardy champion." That evening, long after the cameras had stopped rolling and the studio had emptied, Alex sat alone in his dressing room, holding Marcus's card and staring at his reflection in the makeup mirror. The face looking back at him was the same one that had been hosting Jeopardy for over 3 decades, but something fundamental had shifted inside. The production crew, who had been silently witnessing this extraordinary exchange, began to applaud. It started quietly, almost reverently, then built to a standing ovation that filled the studio. Alex Trebek, the man who had spent decades celebrating the knowledge and achievements of others, was being honored for something far more important than any game show victory. As the applause continued, Alex stood up and embraced Sarah. It was a moment that transcended the usual boundaries of host and audience, celebrity and fan. It was simply two human beings acknowledging the power of words to heal, to inspire, and to change lives in ways we may never fully understand. "Thank you," Alex whispered to her. "Thank you for coming back to tell me this story. Thank you for becoming the person you were meant to be, and thank you for passing along that encouragement to others who need it." Sarah pulled back from the embrace, her face radiant with joy and gratitude. "No, Mr. Trebek. Thank you for teaching me that every voice matters, including my own. And thank you for showing me that sometimes the most important thing we can do is simply see the potential in another person and speak it out loud." As the crew members returned to their preparations for the final taping of the day, Alex found himself changed by the encounter. What happened during that final game would prove that Sarah's visit had transformed not just Alex's understanding of his impact, but his entire approach to hosting. That afternoon's final Jeopardy taping was different. Alex's interactions with the contestants carried an extra warmth, an additional layer of genuine care that even the crew noticed. During the closing credits, he looked directly into the camera with renewed purpose. "Until next time, remember that knowledge is power, but kindness can change the world. The story of Dr. Sarah Chen's visit spread quickly through the Jeopardy family and eventually to the wider world. It became a reminder that we never know which of our words will take root in another person's heart, which casual encouragement might alter the trajectory of a life. News outlets picked up the story, calling it the Alex Trebek effect, the phenomenon of how small acts of recognition can ripple through decades to create profound change. For Alex Trebek, it reinforced what he had always believed but perhaps taken for granted, that his role extended far beyond asking questions and confirming answers. He was, in the truest sense, an educator, and sometimes the most important lessons happen in the moments between the official teaching. Remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel if this story moved you. Have you ever had someone speak words into your life that changed everything? Or maybe you've been the person whose encouragement became someone else's turning point. Sometimes we never know which sentence will echo through decades to save a life. Share in the comments below about a time when someone's words made all the difference, because just like Alex Trebek's forgotten sentence, your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Thank you for watching, and remember, your words have power beyond measure.